Hello everybody, welcome to this Automotive World webinar. I'm Martin Carl, I'm the editor of Automotive World. I'm delighted to welcome you today. Today we're going to be looking at maps and how they're going to be used in autonomous driving. I'm delighted to be joined by experts from Elektrobit and TomTom, and we're going to be discussing how HD map data can support semi and fully autonomous driving functions. A little bit of background to this: a safe and comfortable autonomous driving experience relies on the autonomous vehicle's ability to accurately locate themselves, perceive their environment, and anticipate the road ahead. The idea of an electronic horizon built on HD map data complements the vehicle's sensors, increasing richness, robustness, and range. So today we have from Elektrobit, Christian Herring, who's Product Manager of EB Robinos, and from TomTom, Frans de Rooij, Regional Director Product Management in TomTom's Autonomous Driving Division. Over the next hour or so, our expert guests are going to be discussing how up-to-date HD map data can be brought into in-vehicle ADAS and autonomous driving functions and translate this data into actionable insights. We'll have a presentation which should last about half an hour or so, and then that will be followed by a Q&A session. If you'd like to ask a question, please type it into the Q&A box on your screen, and we'll put as many relevant questions as possible to our panelists in the time that we have available. And the slides and a recording of the event will be available afterwards. We'll send you an email to let you know how and when you can access those. So that's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Christian and Frans now for a presentation entitled Taking Autonomous Driving to the Next Level with HD Maps. The floor's yours.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Martin. My name is Frans de Rooij, and I'm here in this call together with Christian, who will take the lead on the presentation initially.
Yeah. Hello all. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to talk to you about autonomous driving and how HD maps can support and enrich it. So, Frans, can you go to the next slide? Let's have a short look about the agenda. So, first of all, Frans and I would like to talk about the companies we both are working for, so Elektrobit and TomTom. Afterwards, we would like to explain you how HD maps can change or already changing the way partially autonomous driving is working and fully autonomous driving will work in future. And then we will have a deeper look how our combined solution will enable these functionalities in the near future or already does. So about Elektrobit, the company I'm working for, Elektrobit had this year his 30 years anniversary. It has grown to a company with over 2,200 employees in 10 countries all over the world. We're very proud about that over 90 million cars are running with Elektrobit software in all over the world. And we are part of the Continental AG, but a subsidiary of Continental. Elektrobit products and solutions cover all current trends of the automotive industry. They reach from automated driving to user experience products. Our vehicle infrastructure-related solutions can provide, among other, a deep experience in over 15 years of embedded security and automotive networks. In addition, Elektrobit can share its experience with engineering services and consulting.
All right, and a brief word about TomTom from me. We've been around for over 27 years. It's been a long time since we started out creating digital maps. And then we created the portable navigation device around 15 years ago, of which we've sold by now over 95 million devices. Since then, we've been evolving and continuing our lead in location technology, applying our skills to different application domains, and one of these now is autonomous driving. And for that application, we create the high-definition map using all of the location technology experience that we built up. In broad terms, the TomTom technologies and products fall into three categories. First of all, the digital maps. Our SD navigation maps cover almost all the countries and all the roads in the world, with a lot of content for searching, planning a route, and guiding you to your destination, as well as now the high definition layers that enable autonomous driving. Second area is our navigation software that we deploy on our devices in automotive embedded solutions, telematic solutions, but also as APIs in the cloud that are used by a whole range of customers, from cloud providers to smartphone app makers and so on. Finally, we also offer connected services like our real-time traffic service that is based on the GPS probes that we receive from the community of over 500 million users of TomTom products in some form or other. So that user community spans the automotive embedded devices, the consumer sat-nav devices, smartphone apps, telematic fleet management devices, and so on. So enough about TomTom. Let's look in a bit more detail about the needs that we see for safe and comfortable automated cars. Obviously, automated cars or autonomous cars have a range of sensors on board to perceive their environment and enable them to plan a path through the free space. But they face quite a few challenges to really take autonomy to a higher level. First of all, there's complexity of the environment. Perceiving where the road is and where the other road users are relative to each other might be challenging if it's pretty full, and the view might be obstructed by other road users, but also by other objects by the side of the road, curvatures, gradients, and so on. Cars may also encounter a lot of unusual situations, and then it would help for the sensors to be able to distinguish between objects that are always there, stationary part of the world, and objects like the deer crossing the road here that are the exceptions to the rule, and perceiving these in time to take evasive action is important. Then there are hazards, knowing up front of the hazards that can be expected down the road that may lead to a different route, or that may lead to extra caution, or even the autonomous function to be disabled. That would be useful information to have up ahead. And finally, more generally, difficult conditions may hamper sensor perception of the environment. Dense fog, snow, heavy rain, all of these can reduce the availability, and having a more robust system that provides a good environment model makes higher levels of autonomy possible. Now, these challenges then lead to different requirements of the automotive maps that are needed in the system. The navigation systems that we know very widespread, they of course have need for map attributes for drivers to be able to search their destination and plan a route. The map updating frequency and the position accuracy tend to be relatively basic in these systems. Map updates might be available from the cloud more frequently, but car makers often limit the update frequency to keep the bandwidth usage to a manageable level. Now, with additional basic automation features that you may call driver assistance, the need for additional map features grows. The maps need to have what we call ADAS attributes, advanced driver assistance attributes, and these features need to be kept up to date more frequently, and to use these map features, they need to be more based on a more accurate positioning. And these accurate positions would enable the system to use for example, the curvature and the gradient and the speed limit of the road up ahead. And then if we look to even higher levels of automation, the requirements on the map grow even further. Then we really would need highly precise information about the lanes and the objects ahead. Not just the road, but each individual lane with its geometry, its curvature, the speed limits, and other attributes that would help the construction of a reliable environmental model. These maps for automated driving would also be need to be kept up to date very frequently, and that means a richer range of input sources would be needed, and they would need to enable very accurate positioning of the vehicle, a lane accurate or better. And to meet that need, especially in that automated driving use case, we at TomTom have created additional HD map layers, high definition map layers. And first of all, the top layer that you see here, we offer a highly accurate geometry of each lane on the road. And each lane then comes with the geometry of the markings, the center line, the road boundary, the crash barriers, everything that defines the geometry of the lanes on the road. In addition to that, we offer a number of layers aimed at localization using various sensor sets that the vehicle may have, and we call these layers our road DNA layers. These are kind of providing a fingerprint of the road that can be correlated with the sensor's observations. The first that you see there is the traffic signs. Below there you see the compressed LiDAR point cloud providing the lateral depth to the side of the road. Then there's the lane markings providing not just the geometry that was already available in the top layer, but also the start and end point of each lane marker. And finally, as a concept, we also have the full road surface reflectivity pattern. The top few layers here, we already have widespread coverage in Europe, America, and Japan, basically covering all the freeways or controlled access highways on those continents. And the great thing about this is that it provides then a scalable solution for our customers and partners to really use in their pre-development projects and then take them to mass deployment without having to change the map format or the map access. Now, as I said, in the autonomous driving scenario, keeping the map up to date is of course also important, not just a one-off. It's very important to keep it up to date on a very frequent basis. And we use already a range of sources to create our map. We use the large volume of GPS probes that I mentioned earlier to detect map changes. And now, as car sensors become better, become more connected, become more widely installed, that sensor-derived data of map observations, perhaps a new traffic sign or a speed limit change, we can take those into our map-making backend in the form of roadograms to keep the map up to date in a very fast cycle time. So richer maps, up-to-date maps, providing the map data for a range of applications. And as the map content grows, we see them also supporting a growing range of applications. It really started with a passive driver systems that would just warn or inform the driver of intersections or curves up ahead, controlling the engine power based on the gradient. Now we're getting into the higher levels of automation and therefore the higher levels of map features that are needed, eventually leading to a fully autonomous car, which is a robotaxi service. Now the crucial bit, of course, is to not only have that map data, but to make it available to the systems in the vehicle that need that data. And that takes us to the next chapter about the horizon.
Yeah, as Frans showed earlier on the slide, there are many different functions or other functions spread in the car or used in the car. Not all of these functions have direct access to the map data, and that would also not possible to provide them all the possibility to access the map data directly and to update the starter. For this, to solve this problem, Electric Horizon provides a solution. So it has a centralized location where it stores the map data. and provides this map data over the bus system to all attached ECUs where the ADAS functions are running. The common solution where TomTom and EB are working on is based on a de facto worldwide standard. Can you go on the next slide? You will see that the standard is defined by a group of significant actors of the global vehicle industries and suppliers. And total, there are over 50 companies that join together and specify a standard to use it as an electric horizon base. This enables applications to access data generated by the map source and related data to build a predictive and a vehicle environment data based on map position and other key reference data. This data is spread around the car over the communication network to enable all ECUs to access this data, to use it for their function, and brings the ADAS comfort to the functionality and to the driver. The work of this forum started in 2012 with the ADAS V2. This standard was based on SD maps and was mostly used for convenience functions or macro functions. Since we have much more need for high precision and have a higher data amount, they started to work on the ADAS V3 format, a new standard for autonomous driving, and they started their work in 2013. And this year they will finally release the first standard version of it. So if we compare both standards, you will have see that the first standard, the SV2, was based on a canvas, which limits the amount of data that can be transferred and also the size of the data. Compared to this, ADAS V3 is using TCP/IP, which opens a lot of more possibilities and a lot of more data to be exchanged. This is really needed to cover the demand that high HD data needs and also the demand that highly autonomous driving functions need. The communication principle was in the past that we had one provider that was usually running on the infotainment system and took the map data from the navigation system, while nowadays you will have multiple providers in the car, so that systems can also provide feedback to other systems, since we have a broad network of exchanging data. This data can also be transferred back to the map provider so we can enrich our global view of the world. Earlier versions had a one single tree support. This means there would be one horizon spread to the car, and if there was a change in the tree, a new horizon had to be generated. This took time, and this was also changed now by ADAS V3. So we have always multiple trees running and can switch between, because we need for autonomous driving, we need much shorter reaction time and much faster reaction to system changes. So overall, when we have a look in the attributes defined, it was 31 standard attributes that were available. We have now only 45 specified, but the possibility of a lot more profiles that can be generated. It's not fixed and limited. It was earlier to standard profiles, but now it's a more open approach to cover all the needs that can come up in the future. It's obvious that automated driving function needs ADAS V3 to tackle the challenges here. One last point really is that the attribution resolution was meters for ADAS V2 and now is centimeters. Otherwise, it would not be feasible to maneuver in closed space and use highly accurate data needed. So let's take a deeper look into the horizon provider. You see a typical epsilon chart here. On the vertical, you can see the density of maps. So we had first SD map data, and if you go more and more to the right, we ended up in HD maps. So the density of the data and the accuracy changed over time and over the request that the system made to it. If you see the vertical line, you see that all started with onboard maps. So we had one map that was provided by the navigation system that was maybe updated once a year. And it goes further with connected map and onboard solutions. So where we had still the onboard map, but could receive updates or additional data from an online connection to the future, where TomTom is working on a fully streamable map. So these different areas cover different needs. So when we have the basic electronic horizon, this was really good for the standard functions and the archaeological functions that don't need up-to-date data. The connected functions already enables the car for other functions where we could provide feedback to the map providers, like for example signposts, as different signposts were recognized, or we also could have the newest signpost always available in the car and improve social security for the driver. The upcoming solution we are both working now together is a fully streamable solution where no map data in the car has to be there. All will be downloaded and cached with intelligent algorithms and then provided to the network. So we have always the newest and up-to-date data and can provide this to improve the experience for the driver. So to have a rough overview how this solution looks like. So we have on the one side TomTom AutoStream, who provides the data. We have the EV robinos provider, who converts the map data received by TomTom to the ADS-V3 format, sending it over the TCP/IP network into the car where it is received and reconstructed by the EV robinos reconstructor. So let's have a deeper look into the components. Frans, would you like to tell us something about the TomTom AutoStream?
Yes. Focusing on the first component in that chain, the TomTom AutoStream, basically starts from the need to deliver ADAS and AD data that is the freshest available. We focus purely on the ADAS and AD data because that keeps the data layers relatively thin and focus on keeping them up to date in the vehicle where you need them. That means the streaming that we provide is really focused on the route that the vehicle has planned and only checks whether the tiles that the vehicle has on board are the latest and greatest. If not, it will fetch the tiles from the cloud when and where needed. And the onboard cache management that is included with AutoStream is important. The onboard cache ensures that the latency of accessing the data on board is low because it's already on board the vehicle. Having a cache also reduces the network dependency. If there's a gap in the over-the-air network coverage, the data is already in the cache for many kilometers or miles ahead. And having the cache means that the vehicle does not need to download time and again the tiles if they have not changed. And that reduces the data usage over the air. So it will only update the tiles that have changed. This AutoStream component then feeds into the next step in the onboard chain, that is the Elektrobit robinos.
The EB robinos predictor uses the map data received by TomTom AutoStream to provide an electronic horizon to all ECUs with the newest information about the upcoming road network and the actual data. It can also take into account data from the navigation system, for example, the current routes driven by the driver. Or it consists out of the provider and the reconstructor. The provider receives the data from the navigation system and the map data in the cloud, transforms it to the ADAS V3 or V2 standard, and sends it over the vehicle network. The reconstructor then reconstructs the data and retrieves the needed data for the ADAS function, so it's not not needed to retrieve all data for each and every function. Each function has different needs on the data that it needs from the map. So the EB robustness reconstructor is configured in this way that it serves the needs of the ADAS application. The ADAS application can then use this data to provide a safe and secure way for the driver and handle their functionality. As mentioned before, the solutions are all based on the standards defined by the ADAS consortium. On top, it's with ADAS v3 now also possible to give to have not only one provider running in the system, but multiple providers. Providers can give different information to different systems, and all can be set together to one ADAS v3 tree. The ADAS applications can also give feedback to the eHorizon provider, so we can also update the data needed. For example, if the camera recognizes that the speed limit is different than transferred by the eHorizon, this feedback can be given to via sub-providers, and the eHorizon provider then can also even give feedback to the cloud that there's new information available and an update has to be given. It supports it supports the on the fly update possibility of data and makes it more feasible and more usable for autonomous driving. So TomTom and Elektrobit were working the whole year together to provide the first implementation of the ADAS v3 standard that is released this year. And we are happy to pronounce that we have a demo Twitch and running that uses either TomTom NDS maps or TomTom AutoStream data. This data can be used by the EB robustness predictor, so our provider running on a small ADAS kit based on a Raspberry Pi. This data will be transferred by TCP/IP and can then be visualized on a Windows tooling where the reconstructor is running inside LTS. So it can be easily used for development and R&D purposes already now to see how the standard will develop and which possibilities that our common solution will provide in the future and now. So let's conclude. Our solution together enables safe and comfortable autonomous driving by providing the latest HD map data to the vehicle network. It's based on a quasi-weight standard defined by many key players in the autonomous industry, the ADAS v3 standard. TomTom and Elektrobit offer a convenient way to develop software based on the ADAS v3 horizon, so either by the eval solutions kits or other possibilities. Contact if you are interested in any demo or more information.
Okay, well, this is Martin. Thanks very much, Christian. Thanks, Frans, for your presentation. We now have an opportunity for questions. If anybody would like to ask a question, please type it into the Q&A box on your screen. We'll put those questions to our panelists. We've had a few interesting questions come in already. I'm sure some more will come in over the next couple of minutes. Perhaps you can talk about what impact HD maps have on telco bandwidth. Is there any particular impact that the higher the definition will have on the connectivity that the vehicle has with a network, and what happens if there's bad or poor or even absent network coverage?
Yeah, I think I can take that one. We certainly think that autonomous vehicles will need to be connected to ensure that they can receive the latest map data. At the same time, we're conscious that we should not overburden the connectivity by retrieving too much data. So the AutoStream solution that TomTom proposes tries to do exactly that, minimize the bandwidth consumption while at the same time keeping the data on board the vehicle fresh. And we do that by limiting the area that we update to the tiles that are needed for the route. Also by limiting the map data layers to the layers that are needed for the autonomous driving system, so not including the layers that are needed for navigation. We would propose a different update strategy for those navigation-related layers. And with the onboard cache, we would overcome the network gap. So as the question was asking, how would you deal with these poor network connectivity areas? Well, we would want the vehicle to cache the data upfront for the entire route. And that because the layers are, as I said, thin and focused on the route, that would not incur too much network data usage, but make sure that the data is there even when the network is bad for part of the route.
Okay, well, you both confirmed your joint solution. Can you talk a little bit, please, about what map data is available in your offering right now, and perhaps where you intend to take that next?
Sure. So TomTom and Elektrobit have started out focusing on the lane geometry. We think that's the most important first set of map data that can be, for example, used for localizing by correlating lane markings to camera observations. And the geometry can be used for planning the vehicle path ahead, knowing what lanes are up ahead and how they connect, where lane changes or exit or on-ramps start and end. Over time, we will gradually add further map content based on the available ADASIS V3 profiles, filling those with additional map data.
Okay. We've had somebody ask for a little bit of clarification into the way the information is captured. Specifically, they said this solution only takes into account the information captured by vehicle cameras and GP positioning. Is infrastructure information planned, for example?
Yeah, so when you talk about infrastructure, perhaps that means things like traffic signs and crash barriers, then certainly yes, these elements will, or in some areas are already part of the TomTom HD map. And that is because we use a range of input sources to create the map. So we do not purely rely on crowdsourced camera-derived data. We also have our own controlled sources, such as our mapping survey vehicles, satellite data, government data, and so on. And that ensures we can also capture that infrastructure data in our map and provide that to autonomous driving systems.
And do you fuse, as somebody's asked here, do you fuse vehicle position with onboard vehicle sensors?
Christian, perhaps this is for you to
explain. This is for me. Yeah, so that's part of the EDV product line. We have also an HD positioning solution that can take the GPS positioning, but also exterior sensors like readers and others into account, fuse them to a constant positioning, and uses data then for map matching for map matching to map the position given by the positioning to the map data. So yeah, we are able to take also all other sensors into account and are relying not only on GPS.
And another question about the current offering. What's the current coverage in terms of miles or kilometers, and in which regions as well? Regions even, sorry.
Yeah, I've mentioned the extensive coverage that we have on highways. Basically, our TomTom HD map currently already covers all controlled access highways in the US, Europe, and Japan, and that's a total of over 400,000 kilometers.
So we're talking about taking autonomous driving to the next level with HD maps. If we step away from the maps for a moment, I'm just wondering how the information that comes from the maps is applied by the autonomous vehicle. How, in addition to directional driving, how about things like the way in which the powertrain works, prepping brakes in order to slow down at the right time, or changing gear, depending on the type of vehicle it is, in order to accelerate quickly or to take in gradients, for example?
Yeah, certainly these are use cases. Perhaps if you could flick back to slide 11. These are certainly use cases that the map data would power. So these kind of fuel efficiency and for EV systems, exactly this slide. And for EV systems, the range calculation, these would often be here in the second layer, the economic/ecologic assistance systems. And these could take into account the map attributes like gradient and height to manage, exactly as you said, the gearbox for a combustion engine. It could also manage the range and getting to a charging station in time for an electric vehicle.
And we had a question about infrastructure earlier. I wonder if you can talk about how your map data can be combined with information from infrastructure. And by that, I'm thinking of things like street lamps and other vehicle road furniture through V2X or other means of communication, Wi-Fi, for example, to position the vehicle on the road, but also to understand what might be coming around the corner and so on, and really understand the position of the vehicle on that map.
Yes, so that's also more a solution that is used by the positioning. So for sure, we can use the information given from the HD map, like landmarks, like now networks, to apply this in addition to our electric cognitive solution, so to have a more precise solution, a more precise ego solution inside the road, but also a global solution. So to know what is about around the corner, that's one of the benefits of the e-horizon. So the sensors that autonomous cars are using have a limited range, and they can, as mentioned, not to look around a corner or a steep curve. So there's where the e-horizon brings the benefit and is a puzzle piece to make autonomous drivers more comfortable and more safe, since we can provide the algorithms that take over this planning, the path planning, and the control of the gear and the speed, the information, how the curve is, what is behind the curve. And in the future, that's not right now, but Frans, please correct me when I'm wrong, but so TomTom is planning to use also the dynamic information and provide this over our stream, so that we have the information if there is a traffic jam in front, if there is a car in front, or if something happened.
Correct. So I see two channels that you mentioned, Christian. Indeed, we aggregate real-time information and we'll provide it also to autonomous driving systems as a live layer. At the same time, in the vehicle, V2X or V2V, V2I communication may receive real-time signals from its environment, and that can be viewed on board the vehicle, but that's more a matter of the onboard algorithms, the onboard localization. And I think even the Audacious protocol allows fusing in data from such a V2X source with the map data as a source. Is that correct?
Exactly. So over the sub-provider, it's possible to enrich the tree with different data received by different ECUs and different input mechanisms.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, somebody's asked what protocol will be used on the communication between the vehicles, the infrastructure, the roadside units, and the server, and how do you plan to equip all elements with it?
Yeah, that's a question that touches many areas, right? I think there are multiple interfaces. So if I were to describe the loop, where the infrastructure is internet connected, and here I'm thinking, for example, of traffic sign, traffic light control systems. In many countries, these are traffic lights are becoming connected. That could be connected to the TomTom cloud in an interface that suits these systems, and then provided to the vehicle as an AutoStream layer. So that's the AutoStream interface. How that data is then distributed on board, that is where we propose Audaces V3. How the infrastructure might communicate directly to the vehicle is a different topic. And perhaps, Christian, do you want to talk about V2X interfaces?
No, I'm sorry, I can't give any so much details into it. I'm not aware of any of the standards. Yes, sorry for this.
Yeah, but in a sense, that's not part of the offering that we're describing today, right? So
exactly. So this communication is not standardized and is not taken into account until now by the forum. So there are only attempts to standardize the communication into the car, inside the car, but not between the cars at the moment, at least.
All right, well, just staying with the topic of the car communicating with things around it and also seeing where it is on the road, we've had quite a few questions about how vehicles would deal with extreme weather conditions, ranging from snow to heavy rain and even soiling of sensors. Can you talk a little bit about how that can be overcome and what role HD Maps plays in this?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question that touches the robustness that would be required for autonomous driving systems. And then the robustness initially for a level 2 or 3 system might be lower than the robustness required for a level 4 or 5. And we see that robustness coming from using a range of sources. Different sensors have different weak areas, different strengths. So you might want to use a camera and a radar and in future possibly a LiDAR and ultrasound even for the near field and combine that with HD map. Now the HD map obviously will not provide information about where other cars and where pedestrians are right now, but it will enhance the perception and the analysis of the data coming from the other sensors. So when one or more sensors may have seen an object, the algorithms can then check if that object is or is not part of the HD map to identify whether it poses a danger or not. So the HD map really adds to the sensors a way of identifying better what the objects are that it sees, and it adds a possibility to see kind of behind the corner, around the corner, and behind other vehicles on the road.
Are you able to talk at all about how close your solution is to being used in vehicles on the road in any testing scenarios that are going on at the moment, for example, either in public roads or private roads?
Yeah, so it's there in a sense. The map data is being used already in a lot of development projects. Christian, perhaps you can say something about the Audaces V3 interface maturity.
So the first release of the specification is out, and we gave this month out our first official release to the Audaces forum. So all those contributors and all those companies that specifies will have now access to our common solution here and will for sure use it. We as Elektrobit used it up front in our test scenarios here, mostly in Germany and in Finland, to test our solution and stability. So our current solution of Audaces V3 is based on our Audaces V2 solution, and this one is running in all major cars all over the world. So we had 12 million cars running with our Audaces V2 solution alone. So the maturity is there given from our point of view based on the history we have with the standard and will now bring to a broader base and to broader projects by the official release. I hope this covers.
Okay, so at the moment it's for Audacis members. What if, do you have to be an Audacis member to be able to use this, or is it possible for non-members to also somehow purchase and or use the solution?
So to purchase and get our solution, you don't have to be an Audacis member. It's free for everyone. The Audacis specification itself is only provided to members at the moment. But since we are offering a full tool chain from the map over the provider to the reconstructor, you should be able to test the solution and see if it benefits your function you are developing.
And are there any particular vehicle types that you're focusing on when you are looking at developing these maps? I mean, is it for anybody, or is it mainly for passenger cars? Can it just equally be used by commercial vehicles, either doing long haul or light commercial vehicles in last mile delivery solutions? Can you perhaps give us some idea of who this is best intended for?
The solution that we propose here is independent of the vehicle type. So Audacis data provisioning would work for all vehicle types. The content, Audacis V3 specifies a lot of different profiles, and it's very flexible as to what map content layers you would want to provide. So the content that we as TomTom provide into the Audacis V3 provider by Elektrobit will grow over time. As I said, initially our map coverage is focused on highways, independent of the vehicle type, and over time we will expand the coverage to additional features and to smaller road classes.
Thanks. And Christian, you were talking about the more about the platform and the product itself. We've had a question about the platform that you provide. What's the platform that you provide as a first demo, and what about porting it to other platforms?
So as a first demo, we can provide our solution as a toolchain ready-made on our eval kits that's based on a Raspberry Pi, but we also have solutions ready for Linux and Windows. Porting to other platforms should be also not a problem. Just contact us with your specifications and we will have a look into it.
Can you provide some information about the importance of the size of the fleet on the road and the size of the probe vehicles that are providing data in order to increase the map? I mean, I would understand that the more vehicles that are on the road, the better it is. Somebody said here, does the reliability of the solution decrease the fewer vehicles are equipped? So the opposite of that is, does the reliability improve the more vehicles are equipped with this?
That's a relevant question for map making. We as TomTom focus very much on providing a working solution from day one, right? So we have from our own controlled map sources already been able to create that initial map coverage. So that's available and reliable. Now, in a sense, the speed of the updates will, of course, depend on the size of the community. So that will impact how quickly we have enough data intake to be confident in making a map update. Map change detection, as I mentioned, is already done based on GPS traces, so we can detect very quickly already whether the map might be mismatching reality. Then we can identify that as an area that requires an update. We can provide that information to the vehicles already, and then we can make the update as soon as we have enough data from the fleet. So these map update change speeds will depend on the size of the fleet, but the availability of the data today is already there.
Do you envisage some kind of standardization of the way in which road roadworks, for example, are implemented. At the moment, there's a very ad hoc system, certainly in the UK, where I'm talking to you from, of if roadworks are planned maybe 2 days before, some temporary traffic lights are put in place. It's very confusing even for human drivers to understand exactly what needs to be done at these traffic lights sometimes, especially if it's a three-way junction. Perhaps there is a rule as to how these are implemented, but they're not necessarily followed. Do you expect more standardization of such events going forward in order to accommodate the way in which an autonomous car would read these situations?
That would be nice, but challenging.
Okay.
Right? We realize different countries have different rules, and even different states, different provinces may apply the rules differently. So I think it will be nice, but it will take a long time before that's really a global standard in how the authorities deal with that. Therefore, we think that we need to be able to provide to autonomous driving systems the information to make their own judgment for the vehicles, to make their own judgment where and where not to enable the automated driving function, and if enabled, how to deal with such instances. So what we already do at TomTom, we take in these government data, as you say, they often announce roadworks for often a much longer stretch and a much longer time than the actual work is taking. And we therefore cut these messages to size based on the GPS traces that we have. We know exactly where the traffic is slower or constricted to just a single lane, and that helps us to prune the government provided information to the right length. But that still leaves the question to the vehicle itself, right? Whether or not to enable the automated driving function in these areas, and that will depend on the sensor set, on the algorithms, on the trim level of the vehicle. So we would want to leave that choice to the system itself.
And how quickly can the updates be added to the maps, and how quickly can that information be transferred to other vehicles? I'm thinking perhaps of a truck that spilled its load. How quickly can that information, that's an impact that might only, an event that might only impact the road for a couple of hours, but that information still needs to be transmitted to other vehicles around and their maps in order that those vehicles can deal with that situation quickly at the time. But let's say 2-3 hours later, that's no longer an issue, and that's cleared again. How does that information get accommodated?
Right, that information is very much part of our live map layers. I've mentioned the traffic, but part of that is also our hazards. So we every 30 seconds recalculate the situation on the road and provide that data to our interfaces. It's then up to the vehicles system designers to decide how often to retrieve that information, and that then provides information about accidents like a truck spillage that you mentioned. Again, that leaves open the question how to deal with that. We provide the information to the vehicle that there is accident XYZ at location such and so. Dealing with that situation, perhaps even in an autonomous way, will depend on the system's capabilities in the vehicle.
We have had a question from somebody who wants to know about how you're dealing with, or how you plan to deal with areas that are not currently mapped. Can you talk a little bit about the decisions that go into what is mapped and what's not yet mapped, and how you prioritize where you map and where you're going to go next?
Yeah, that's an area, the map making for new areas is very much an area for discussion between us and our customers. So we're keen to discuss that further in a one-to-one with our customers, because in a sense our map making processes are scalable. We achieve that by making them as automated as possible. But where we apply these map making processes and when we roll out to what areas, it really depends on customer demand.
Okay. We've just published a special report on the future of mobility in Tokyo, and one of the challenges that was raised for the streets of Tokyo was just how complicated both the narrow road system is, but also the addressing system. Now, I know we're not talking about addressing specifically here, but I wonder if, and you mentioned earlier about different areas have different rules and regulations for almost everything on the road. But how do you tackle somewhere like Tokyo, and what learnings can you take from a very complex mapping scenario, and how do you use that when you're looking at other places that you haven't yet mapped?
Yeah, that's perhaps a question more in the what I would call the SD, the standard definition navigation map, where we see the searching, but it's still a very relevant point for a system to work out where it wants to go, right? And for the user to input his desired destination. You need indeed, as you say, often very country or region specific data. Right? I know in Japan and also in Russia, there's very specific numbering systems for building blocks and sub blocks, and how you get to the right door. So we deal with that mostly in our navigation map, where you would be able to find search for your destination, calculate a road level route to the destination, and then we would foresee the HD map to play a role in executing that road level route on a lane level.
Okay, and one of the findings from that report, sorry to go back to the Tokyo example for a moment, was that if an autonomous car can navigate the streets of Tokyo, it can drive anywhere. And I wonder if, you might agree with that idea, that somewhere complex like that, if you can get an autonomous car using your HD maps in a very complicated scenario like that, then that's true for anywhere else.
Yes, although I would be careful to only put it to the map, right? Urban environments are challenging in many ways, right? The GPS receivers are challenging in urban environments, perceiving pedestrians, cyclists, trams, all sorts of urban features vary by country, so you would not only need a great map, but also a great sensor set and great sensor data processing to be able to handle these situations. I'm sure Tokyo is extremely challenging, so yes, tackling it there would be a great basis, but I'd be careful to extrapolate too quickly. Other cities have other difficulties with perhaps invisible lane markings or pedestrians crossing everywhere and not just on the pedestrian crossings as they do perhaps in Tokyo.
Okay, well, let's just take the title of the session that we're dealing with here, then taking autonomous driving to the next level with HD maps. Where do you see autonomous driving at the moment, and what would you say is the next level?
Christian, do you want to say something about the different levels? Or shall I have a go? In a sense, we see the different levels that I showed in the slides arising at the same time, but perhaps in different volumes, right? So there's a lot of work and a lot of products coming into the market on the driver assistance level. At the same time, there's a lot of work going on, perhaps not readily available to the public, but in many demo cases of higher levels of automation. So we see the market progressing on all these different feature levels right now.
Okay, well, I think that's a perfect moment to wrap up. Thank you very much to Christian. Thank you to Frans for sharing your insight with us. Thank you to Elektrobit and TomTom for helping to make today's webinar possible. And, of course, to everybody who joined us on this call. We will make a set of slides available for you to download. You can also watch the webinar on demand. And we'll send you an email within the next 24 hours or so to let you know how and when you can access those. But from me, Martin Carl, and from Elektrobit and TomTom, thank you very much. And we'll see you at the next Automotive World webinar. Thanks very much, and goodbye.